Inside a sunlit school building, two students are deep in conversation. One complains about how long the exam took. His friend explains it dragged on because he finished answering every question, then sat there staring blankly at the paper. A rumbling sound interrupts them. Both turn their heads toward the noise. Military vehicles and trucks roll through the streets. Students are being escorted inside these convoys. The young people aboard seem relaxed, chatting and laughing as they ride. Watching from the sidewalk, several girls grow excited, admiring the boys in the trucks. The black-haired student remarks that those aren't real adventurers, just students from a specialized academy. The vehicles bear a logo, a sword embedded in stone. He explains it belongs to the warrior school. In the history of this world, catastrophe struck without warning. A city burns in ruins. Blue portals tear open across the sky. Creatures pour through, overrunning everything. People flee in terror. Scientists later discovered that a world similar to Earth existed on the other side of the universe. On that distant planet, a cataclysmic event shattered the world, erasing all life. The fragments of that destroyed planet hurtled toward Earth. People stared upward in horror as fiery comets descended. When these shards struck, parts of the shattered world began merging with Earth. In the heart of a city, a girl watches as an enormous tree erupts from one of the fragments, spreading across the landscape. This phenomenon became known as the adhesion event. Unnatural laws and countless monsters were introduced to Earth. 17% of the planet's surface fell under their control. Humanity lost dominion over these regions, now called danger zones. Inside a danger zone dungeon, a demon-like creature clutches a soldier's skull. The last surviving member of the platoon gasps for breath, staring at the demon before him. These monster-occupied territories are known as dungeons. Every creature from that world has a status table displaying its strength. The demon that annihilated the military platoon is called the Horn of Terror. The surviving soldier tries to think of a way out. The monster's demonic mouth opens wide. It charges. The soldier fires his rifle desperately, but the bullets ricochet harmlessly off the creature's armored hide. The beast closes the distance and slams a fist into the soldier's stomach, hurling him backward. He crashes into a wall, spitting blood, nearly unconscious. Struggling to rise for the sake of his fallen comrades, the young man is completely spent. These humans had no time to prepare. Even a trained military soldier possessed only a basic rank. Humanity had no means to fight back. The demon approaches with a malevolent grin. The soldier lies helpless. Just as the creature lunges for the kill, the soldier's body erupts with a blue aura. Suddenly, he blocks the punch barreling toward him. Humans are born with natural limits as a species, preventing them from reaching higher levels of power. But the natural laws that bound Earth began to crack. The soldier holds back the beast's attack. With surprising ease, he lifts the creature, crushing its hand as it struggles to break free. His status, previously ranked only B and D, surges exponentially. The seal restraining him chains preventing evolution begins to shatter. The soldier has awakened. Using a judo-style throw, he slams the beast into the ground with tremendous force, ending it instantly. Standing over the monster's corpse, the soldier resolves to use his newfound power to help humanity and defeat these creatures. Though this phenomenon affected all humans on Earth, the abilities awakened were unique to each person. Some chose to train and refine their powers. Others decided to use them for a specific purpose. Amid the chaos, another portal opens. More horned demons invade. Their leader halts, noticing something unexpected. An army of humans stands before the portal, waiting. These individuals chose to reclaim control of the dungeons and danger zones. They were called adventurers. A war erupts between the horned demons and humanity. The soldier who first awakened his power leads the charge. This marked the beginning of the Age of Dungeons and the Age of Adventurers. After the battle, few human warriors survived. The entire world glorified their deeds. Everyone was inspired by their strength and dedication. especially the first soldier who awakened and chose to fight. Soon after, organizations dedicated to training adventurers were established worldwide. The best training facility for teenagers in the Republic of Korea was one in particular. Over the last 25 years, it produced the finest adventurers and was recognized globally as the Warrior School. We return to the two friends talking. One mentions that at that school, students are even taught what happens inside dungeons. The black-haired friend asks what occurs if someone dies. His classmate replies that they have good reason to be confident there's a special test to enter. Before he can finish, their attention shifts to a group of girls screaming. They're completely infatuated with someone, calling him incredibly attractive and describing his beauty as indescribable. This person is a blonde boy with large ears, a half-elf sitting calmly while being applauded. The friends wonder what's going on. One explains that the boy is always on TV. His name is Dif Choi. His father is a famous adventurer, and his mother is an elf. He's considered a genius. People say he'll reach the highest adventurer rank. With all his charm and appearance, he smiles at the girls, driving them wild. He's already entered dungeons 14 times. The black-haired young man grows irritated, muttering that the boy isn't all that special. His friend teases him, saying he's just jealous. The black-haired boy argues back, but his friend ignores him, noticing another classmate approaching. He invites the newcomer to hang out. However, Jering, the black-haired boy, says he can't go, hoping his friends will have fun anyway. The other student teases him, saying he should come along after exams and enjoy himself. Before he can continue, the friend with parted hair punches him in the stomach, telling Jering it's okay not to go this time. Jering, looking at his phone, thanks them and says goodbye. The friend with parted hair asks his companion to be more sensitive next time, wondering if he knows why Jering is doing all this. A flashback shows Jering beside an elderly person lying in a hospital bed. Returning to the present, the boy walks through the city streets, checking his phone. An alert appears he hasn't paid that month's hospital bills. Another notification arrives from his boss, calling him to work. A new job has come in. Dif, waving at his fans, notices something. He turns his gaze toward Jering's back. For some reason, he feels something is wrong. His friend from the warrior school asks if that boy did something to him. Dif responds that he didn't. Looking at Jering, he thinks something but assumes it must be his imagination. During his walk, Jering is extremely stressed. He mutters that he doesn't want to work in an abandoned subway station. He descends the stairs and passes through warning tape blocking the entrance. His boss, a white-haired man named Jawan, stands inside. Next to him is a bald man in a suit the new client Jering will be working for. The black-haired young man says it's a pleasure to meet him. The client grows irritated upon seeing the boy. He tells Jawan he thought he was bringing his best employee. Jawan insists that Jering is the best. The bald man argues, saying he didn't come to be fooled by idiots. Both the boss and Jering call him rude. Even with Jering present, the man in the suit doesn't back down. He says they should call someone truly skilled and threatens that if Jawan doesn't bring someone respectable, he'll make both of them regret it. A muscular man, the bald man's bodyguard, is called forward. Jering asks if that man is an adventurer. Then he rephrases, the muscular man is a retired adventurer, which is why he's following an old man and obeying orders. The bald man is shocked by the boy's attitude. Before he can respond, his subordinate snaps his fingers. Pilgu states there's no need to continue this conversation. He'll break an arm or leg of both the boss and Jering to teach them a lesson. The bald man is pleased, saying he knew his employee could handle things. He orders him to grab the boy, adding that if they don't beg for their lives, they'll die right there. The boy starts pretending to be scared, sarcastically asking for help. Then, changing his posture, a blue aura emanates from him. Jering states that he doesn't know how to beg. It's revealed that our protagonist has illegally returned to dungeons 371 times. As government propaganda, we learn how dungeon smuggling works. Every day, adventurers explore dungeons and defeat monsters, helping humanity prosper. When they successfully clear a dungeon, they gain unimaginable treasures. However, before leaving, these treasures must be handed over for government inspection. Many have incredible, even unimaginable power beyond human control. If they circulate without permission, they can be used for evil, putting countless lives at risk. The Adventurers Association inspects and registers these treasures, determining their nature. They charge appropriate fees based on each treasure's value. However, many violate this rule for personal gain. Tempted by money and unwilling to pay enormous fees, some adventurers secretly keep these treasures without inspectors noticing. If these criminals aren't caught, society suffers tremendous loss, creating endless problems. The propaganda ends by asking citizens who witness smuggling to report it so these bandits can be punished. We return to the fight between the ex-adventurer and Jering. The boy's boss calmly lights a cigarette. Next to him, the bald man is confused, asking how Jawan can be so calm. He calls Jawan to clear up a doubt. Looking at his subordinate and the young boy preparing to fight, he asks if Jawan is really going to let this happen. Jawan questions the bald man, asking if he's going to chicken out after coming this far. The man retorts that they should be the ones scared. He explains that Pilgu didn't retire because of injuries he attacked teammates. He won't go easy on the boy. Hearing this, Jering repeats the crime his rival committed, sarcastically remarking that it's very scary. He affirms that Pilgu is indeed a criminal. Pilgu begins to mock and boast, saying the guy he killed was pathetic, just holding him back. He simply threw the trash away. Hearing this, Jering starts to laugh, saying he understands. He then asserts that Pilgu should be self-aware he's also trash, having caused trouble and lost his license due to irresponsibility. Before the boy can continue, the man quickly lunges to punch him in the face. Noticing where he struck, the man is startled. Jering had managed to dodge simply by turning his face to the side. The boy remarks that attacking like that is quite rude. Pilgu becomes enraged. A green aura emanates from him. The man charges to finish off Jering. Wanting to provoke his rival, the boy says that since he's being attacked, he'll counter with a quick kick. With a resounding impact, the boy strikes his opponent's jaw with his leg. Taking the full force of the blow, the man becomes dazed, trying to process what just happened. Jering's boss remains calm, but the bald man is impressed by the protagonist's speed. Jawan once again asserts that he brought the most skilled person he knew. While Pilgu is shocked by the kick, Jering taunts him, saying there's a surprise judging by his appearance. He expected the bulky man to be tougher. Jawan comments that Pilgu is lost. The boy treated that smuggler like a normal kid. However, those reflexes and the power behind the kick had already reached professional level. The boy also remarks that it seems the ex-adventurer is beginning to understand this might be a fight he can't win. The bald man doesn't give up, stating the kid is good, but it was just a lucky kick. Before he can continue, Jering's boss responds that he can only feel pity for the big guy. Blinded by rage, Pilgu removes his shirt, allowing his aura to surge. Jawan states that Pilgu is undoubtedly a tank. Next to him, the bald man is shocked that Jawan can read his subordinate's abilities. Jawan comments that the old man shouldn't be so surprised. The bulky man says that no matter what cheap trick the protagonist uses, he's still just a smuggler. For that reason, he's going to show him something interesting. Immediately, several veins bulge on his body. Pilgu starts charging green energy. Jering explains that after the adhesion, people began awakening abilities that exceeded their limitations. However, each person has different talents and types. As expected, they awakened completely different latent abilities. Adventurers took on specific training that matched their abilities and assigned themselves roles. Looking impressed at his rival, Jering states that one of those roles is called a tank. Pilgu becomes extremely stronger and more muscular after using various techniques to perfect and increase his stats. The tank is a position where you protect your teammates from dungeon dangers. In this role, the adventurer faces all monsters head-on in the vanguard, unable to retreat or show fear. Strength trained to the limit allows tanks not to feel some bullets fired at them. Higher-ranked tanks can even withstand immense firepower and missiles easily. They're essentially a protective barrier. Observing his rival's transformation, Jereng acknowledges he's powerful, affirming the man truly is an adventurer. After using all his buffs, Pilgu quickly charges with both hands to attack the boy. Jereng, though struggling, manages to dodge. The ground isn't so lucky. The entire floor of the subway shatters, debris flying. Trying to land while feeling the air from all that power rushing toward him, the protagonist attempts to steady himself. The bald man, practically a normal human, is almost blown away by the wind they formed. A hand helps him stay on his feet. It's Jolan, who remained as if nothing had happened. He calmly asks the bald man if he's okay. The man says that in any case, the adventurer is a bastard because he's really going to mess up someone else's business place just for a rivalry. Pilgu charges toward Jereng, who's in a fighting stance. The boy just watches his opponent advance. The man throws another punch. The boy narrowly dodges it. With an extremely smug expression, Pilgu asks what's going on. He also questions why Jereng isn't using any of his previous tricks. But the young man remains deep in thought. Jereng retorts, stating he's not an idiot and wouldn't fall for such an obvious trap. Observing and feeling all the power radiating from Pilgu, Jereng's boss remarks that the ex-adventurer isn't bad. Pilgu's physical strength is around the level of a truck. If a normal person were hit, every bone in their body would be pulverized. Seeing there could be more destruction in his territory, Jolan orders Jereng to hurry up and finish it. If he doesn't, the boy will have to pay for all the damage if anything else breaks. The young man realizes he's running out of options. Pilgu maintains that same expression, now saying it seems the boy's boss doesn't understand what's happening. He emphasizes that Jereng's cheap tricks are no match for professional technique. However, Jereng appears to ignore him. Suddenly, he looks to the side, saying it seems good. The young man notices a strong metal beam positioned beside him. He quickly places his hand on it. Pilgu doesn't understand the move and is confused, wanting to know what the young man is going to do with it. Jereng begins to analyze the iron bar, realizing it could actually be used. He states it should at least be enough. While Jereng is distracted, Pilgu charges at him again. The man is so furious he's gritting his teeth, aura spilling out. Jereng explains that due to their enormous durability, the general belief is that tanks are unbeatable. However, that's not the case. They have a very clear weakness and natural enemy. At this moment, Jolan informs the bald man that the fight is over. Pilgu continues to rush at his enemy, completely enraged and determined to end the battle. However, Jereng doesn't retreat. He also charges forward with the iron in his hand. The weakness of a tank is an entity that can focus powerful and destructive force on a specific point. At that exact moment, with his improvised weapon, the boy moves to strike his enemy. Improved strength and DPS damage per second is the primary weakness of a tank. After saying that, the boy strikes his opponent's jaw with the iron bar, unleashing a blast of energy backward. The ex-adventurer spits blood, practically fainting from the attack. Jolan isn't surprised at all, unlike the bald man, who's completely confused by what just happened. After the strike, the tank immediately falls backward, unconscious for a few seconds. Then he quickly regains consciousness, mouth full of blood. Pilgu asks how the protagonist learned to cut like that. Hearing this, the boy is confused, asking what the man is talking about. He says he doesn't know what Pilgu is thinking, but he's definitely wrong. However, in his mind, he thinks perhaps Pilgu isn't entirely wrong. He may have seen that person before, and therefore recognized Jereng's cutting style. That person was his father, once extremely powerful and known worldwide. Our protagonist begins to recount his past. We see him as a child walking through the corridors of his house. When he was very young, his father was the greatest adventurer in the world to him. The boy felt immense pride in the man. His favorite pastime was watching his father train in the backyard. It wasn't just because they were family, the man truly was powerful. His name was Seong. The man had a muscular appearance and radiated aura and power. This was the soldier we saw in the past, the first human to awaken and defeat one of the monsters. A flashback explains that Seong was one of the heroes of the first generation. To those who didn't experience it themselves, the story of the first generation is a grand legend. But for the adventurers of that time, it was hell. They had to witness countless people losing their lives and face battles daily. More than anything, the main problem was the lack of information about dungeons. No one knew what kind of place they were or what monsters inhabited them, making exploration even more complicated. In the flashback, Seong is seen alongside an ally, preparing to fight a giant worm-like monster. Even monsters considered easy to defeat in modern times were formidable challenges for adventurers in the past. The Gamel the beast Jerang's father was facing begins to spit a corrosive green liquid. It hits Seong's friend. Seong narrowly escapes the attack, but when he looks to the side, he sees his friend being dissolved by the worm's attack. For the adventurers of that time, any creature was an unknown entity capable of destroying everything. After witnessing his friend being melted away, Seong quickly becomes enraged and strikes the beast with his spear. This was a time when adventurers had no information to fight against monsters. After delivering the blow, Seong realizes something he didn't want to see. His titanium alloy spear wasn't resistant to the monster's corrosive attack. Items now considered common didn't even exist back then. Adventurers had to make do with what they had. The first generation of adventurers went through trial and error, risking their lives to discover more about the dungeons. In the flashback, Seong charges at the worm. In the underground dungeon, adventurers arrive as reinforcements. The three young adventurers, seeing the situation and what's happening, are left breathless. Amid the many people who had been dissolved, the only one left standing is Seong, having defeated the creature with whatever he had at his disposal. The survivors passed on their experiences and accomplishments to the next generation to help them. After all their deeds for the good of humanity, they were considered heroes. Seong lived this life, defeating creatures and unknown beings for many years. After evolving greatly as a hero and as a person, he became known as the Dragon Hunter. After years of adventuring, this nickname was given to the first person who managed to defeat a dragon. Seong was seen standing imposingly atop the body of one of those beasts. When people saw this news, they were shocked and amazed. Seong was considered the strongest adventurer in Asia. Seong was also an ordinary person, the father of our protagonist. The boy expresses that he respected him deeply. Jerang remembers his father training with his spear, showing all his power and aura, creating a huge windstorm. More than anyone else in the world, Jerang believed his father was invincible. Until one fateful day, when he saw something that traumatized him. Suddenly, the man who was in his physical prime and training began to cough up blood unexpectedly. Our protagonist, as a child, ran toward his father to see what was happening. However, the man asked his son to stop and not come any closer. According to the doctors, the cause of this sudden weakness and decline was poisoning. Jerang cried a lot as he watched his father in that state at the hospital. Jerang explains that during one of his explorations, his father encountered a deadly poison that contaminated him. As he had always done, his father tried to overcome it, facing challenges head-on. However, after decades of overworking himself, his body was at its limit. Even that first dragon hunter couldn't withstand it. During the time Seong was weak, colleagues he had trusted with his life came and handed him a piece of paper. These people were disguised as vipers who took advantage of Seong's vulnerability. They took away his fortune and work for years. In addition to the illness, he suffered mentally and physically, believing he had only made mistakes up to that point and that nothing he did was rewarded. Years passed. Even when our protagonist was already a teenager, he saw his father sitting on a hospital bed, body severely weakened. Finally, Jering mentions that years later, the world began to forget about the dragon hunter Sion. His father lost his identity as a hero. After losing everything and suffering from an incurable poison that no medical science could cure, all that was left as a reward for Jering was to be a forgotten adventurer. We return to the moment when Jering had just defeated Pilgu. The boy simply stares at his opponent, then turns around and starts walking away while the man tries to mutter something. After all the memories, our protagonist becomes extremely irritated. He throws the piece of iron he was holding and walks toward the exit. The bald man is still shocked by everything he saw, thinking his subordinate was the strongest man. However, Jawan remarks that everything went well. The man remains incredulous, unable to believe his partner Pilgu lost to a kid. But the protagonist's boss remarks that perhaps the bulky man wasn't a good adventurer, which could have been one of the reasons. Jering interjects, saying the man was bragging about hitting his own comrades, just a sign of how weak he truly was. As he continues walking past the bald man, the boy states there are only two reasons why a good adventurer retires. Either their body breaks down to the point where they can no longer explore, or they die during an exploration and are never seen again. Jering puts his jacket back on, saying he didn't know what Pilgu's salary was, but if it was more than minimum wage, the bald man should fire him. He adds that this is an opportunity. Jawan approaches his client, apologizing and asking the bald man to understand their side. He asserts that now the fee for the job will be doubled due to the situation that occurred. The man in the suit is about to protest. Before he can, Jering's boss gives him a menacing look, saying the boy was the one who provoked first. He adds that he and Jering don't work for free. Seeing he wasn't in the best position, the bald man agrees and says it's fine. After some time extorting his client, the boy's boss begins to call Jering over. The man asks if he has ever heard of the Imperial Wasp. Hearing this while drinking water, Jering immediately spits it out. Wiping the water from his mouth, Jering asks if they'll have to fight that even for him, that monster is a bit too much. Jawan explains that the Imperial Wasp is a monster whose danger level is considered the highest not only in Korea but in the entire world. What was once a beautiful and lovely city called Yuo is now the nest of the Imperial Wasp and has become a demonic kingdom in Korea with extremely high difficulty. The man explains that even for high-ranking adventurers, taking down one of these monsters is difficult because these things spread out everywhere. For any smuggler, fighting one of these creatures is practically suicide. However, for a white-ranked adventurer, it was extremely possible they could accomplish it. Jawan explains that according to the bald man, there was a large raid the previous day that wasn't publicized. The boss continues, stating that the government army and 7 white-rank adventurers formed an attack squad to invade the Wasp's nest. Jering is shocked they gathered 7 white-rank adventurers. Jawan adds that adventurers of that level are so famous that if even 2 come together, the media goes wild. With this challenge, it seems they failed to achieve the original goal of eradication, but the adventurers managed to hunt the Queen Wasp. However, one of the 7 stole the royal jelly of the Imperial Wasp and ordered a subordinate from the attack squad to smuggle it. Jering seems confused, not knowing what this royal jelly is. Jawan begins to explain that it's a nutritional supplement given to a newborn queen by the wasps. Struggling to understand, Jering asks why a white-rank adventurer would smuggle a nutritional supplement. It was extremely dangerous. The boy's boss explains there have been occasions where royal jelly was brought into this world. From what he knew, if a human consumed it, they could even come back from the dead. Hearing this, our protagonist is extremely shocked. In the underground city, in a deep subway, we hear someone say that all paths to the dungeons are now strictly controlled. This person begins walking through those abandoned corridors, heading to a certain location, repeating this phrase several times. It's revealed that this person is our protagonist's boss. A man says this isn't true. Looking at a gate with various red markings, the man thinks this proves there's always a way to bypass government restrictions. With a blue aura around his hand, he begins to touch the gate, doing something to merge his magic with the markings. His energy reacts with that of the gate. A massive blue energy light shines throughout the area. The auras begin to merge with the markings there. Something happens, the red markings start to disappear. Our protagonist is right behind his boss. Jaewon tells the boy that even though he always says this, he'll repeat it. Jaerang should be careful, as this job will be especially annoying and a bit more troublesome than the others. For some reason, Jaerang remains silent the entire time, just listening and staying quiet. Trying to get the boy's attention, Jaewon blows a puff of smoke from his cigarette into the young man's face. The young man begins to wave his hand to disperse the smoke, then asks why his boss did that so suddenly. Jaewon explains he did it because the boy had his head in the clouds and wasn't paying attention to the mission. The boss asks if the reason the young man is acting this way is because he's still thinking about the medicine that could bring the dead back to life. Jaerang starts walking toward the gate, stating it doesn't make sense since such things are really not reliable. Leaning against the massive gate, he thinks that even if it's considered an unparalleled antidote, it won't be able to cure his father's condition. With that, the young man begins to open the mysterious gate, from which a strong light starts to emerge. The boy also thinks that if there were something like that, his father would never have abandoned that thread of hope. After opening the gate and passing through it, the young man finds himself in a mountainous region with a beautiful landscape of a clear blue sky. Jaerang tries to shield his eyes from the sunlight to get a better view of the stunning scenery in front of him. After the adhesion, dungeons were created all over the vastness of Earth. Among them, 2 are considered the largest in Korea, and they are peculiar. The first is Judu, a dungeon fused with a volcanic mountain range that has active volcanoes and burning rocks. The other is fused with the Agra jungle. At this moment, the young man is starting to prepare for an exploration. The Agra dungeon is located in what used to be Uo. In the middle of this area, it's possible to see a destroyed city now overtaken by a forest. The young man informs that with Uo at the center, Mapo, Yeon, and other nearby cities were all controlled by this dungeon. Most of it remains unknown. A large portion of the region is only D rank, but Uo, where the wasp is located, is S rank. The person responsible for the jelly tried to transport it to the meeting area in Borma. Jaewon explains that however, after arriving there, the transporter lost contact with the others. While he might have fled, it's not the most likely option. The boss also says the man must have dealt with all sorts of things to get out of there. Well, all our protagonist has to do is reach the location and bring back the jelly. But before Jaerang sets off, Jaewon mentions he'll finish his thought, asking the young man not to get distracted and just focus on the mission. Smiling while putting on a mask, the boy asks if his boss thinks he would run away. However, Jaewon firmly states the boy isn't stupid enough to do that. The boss also asks his subordinate to be careful and remember that the royal jelly is precious. Humans aren't the only ones willing to risk their lives to get it. After his boss's entire speech, the boy uses a rope to safely descend from the cliff into the middle of the forest. There, in the center, he thinks he's sure the entire forest must be smelling that peculiar odor. However, when he looks down, something catches his attention, leaving the young man shocked and irritated. In the forest soil, an enormous footprint of a giant is there. The boy states he's sure various things will be attracted by the jelly's scent. Meanwhile, deeper within that vast expanse of trees and foliage, several birds begin to fly. A girl with pointed ears is seen extremely out of breath, running from something. The woman tries to stop for a moment to rest behind a tree to catch her breath. Her name is Jin Serum. She's in her first year as a warrior, currently facing the biggest problem of her life. It was supposed to be an easy trip to the dungeon for her intermediate exam. It's clear the girl is frozen and utterly terrified. Looking to the side, the young woman remains worried. It's explained that instead of something easy as it should have been, she encountered a monster that should never have been there. It's then revealed that the creature chasing the girl is a gigantic beast. Jin continues trying to stay silent and still to see if she can escape from the beast hunting her. However, a gust of wind begins to approach the girl. She realizes something she didn't want to. The exam was supposed to be simple. Within the time limit, Jin had to collect as many coins as possible that were placed inside the dungeon. Although it was a test designed to simulate real combat situations, the test area was ranked as low as possible and should have been easy. This was because it was considered a training ground for beginners, one that any novice adventurer could pass. The monster chasing Jin silently approaches. When the girl realizes it, the beast is grinning right behind her. She becomes desperate. She explains that even the monsters living there were weak and had low intelligence, but this one is different. The giant with 4 arms and immense strength tries to strike the girl. She narrowly escapes. Jin thinks she should run, but looking at the size of the monster, she realizes that's impossible, so she has to make another decision. At that moment, the girl notices all she has left is to hope for a miracle. She takes out her bow and draws 3 arrows from her quiver to try to arm herself. Despite all the difficulties, she decides to fight back. The 3-star ranked primal titan begins to prepare a monstrous breath. In a desperate attempt to save her life, Jin fires 3 arrows at her enemy. Unfortunately for her, the monster easily raises a hand to shield its face, successfully blocking the weak attack. The girl realizes the titan's skin is tougher than that of a tank. Her chances of winning are almost nil. The primate then, with one of its 4 arms, quickly strikes the ground, causing another gust of wind and rocks to fly into the air. However, with her extreme skill and speed, the girl manages to escape once again. Even in the air, Jin prepares to fire another arrow. She thinks that no matter how many arrows she shoots, it's impossible to pierce the monster. But she has no other choice. 3 more of her arrows fly toward the beast, but this time the projectiles are propelled by wind. Even though they only superficially pierce the titan's body, the monster remains unfazed, maintaining its terrifying expression. Looking at the beast, the girl thinks to herself that she didn't need to kill it with her attacks. It didn't need to dodge or block them. She just wanted it to get a little closer and was hoping the monster would lower its guard for just a moment. The new arrow Jin readies in her bow is imbued with fire. The girl is certain her plan will work. As she lands on the ground, she channels more magic into her arrow. She's a warrior of a class that imbues magic into the tips of arrows. Finally, determined and confident she will survive, the woman prepares to teach the beast a lesson with a powerful bow attack. Jin uses her flame bombardier skill, firing an arrow that tears through the ground. It's explained that the type of magic that can be imbued into the tip of an arrow has absolutely no limits. What she chose as a last resort was the largest explosion she could manage. After hitting something, the arrow explodes, causing a massive blaze that can be seen throughout the forest. The woman continues to stare at the spot where she launched her attack, trying to see if she managed to defeat the beast. Despite everything, that attack should have been enough to kill any monster with a 3-star danger rank. However, the girl is completely terrified. After the smoke clears, the monster is seen clinging to 2 trees, having narrowly avoided the attack. The monster, having barely escaped, looks enraged with a terrifying expression, furious at the audacity of its prey. Even with all the power of the attack, it would only have been effective if it had hit its target. Various thoughts flood Jin's mind. The girl begins to consider she might die there since she doesn't know what else to do. Before she can think about needing to run, the monster lands on the ground, determined to put an end to the young woman. It quickly charges at her. In a desperate instant, Jin runs in the opposite direction, trying to escape. The Titan continues with a psychotic expression, merely wanting to have fun with its desperate prey. However, as if by a miracle from the heavens, just as she had wished, our protagonist suddenly appears, striking the Titan with a weapon. Looking up at the sky, Jin is incredulous at what just happened, gazing at her savior as if he were her hero. Still in the air, Jereng locks eyes with the girl he had just saved, while Jin remains astonished at everything that transpired. The giant, having taken a solid hit to the chin, is still somewhat dazed, trying to stay on its feet. Our protagonist safely lands on top of a tree. He thinks that even though he struck the creature on the chin, it didn't seem to be enough. Looking down, the boy notices the beast is glaring at him with a terrifying expression. He pulls a strange object from his pocket, something resembling a weapon, which is a tool for adventurers. With his baton in one hand and the tool in the other, the boy charges into battle to defeat the beast. Jin, witnessing the situation, is extremely impressed because she never imagined the young man would be bold enough to attack the monster head-on. The girl thinks the young man is heading towards certain death. The enraged primate Titan lunges to attack him with two of its arms. Shouting loud enough for the girl to hear, Jereng tells her to close her eyes immediately. Even though she doesn't fully understand what he's talking about, Jereng quickly points his tool at the monster's face. The beast and Jereng are on the verge of a deadly encounter where only one of them will come out alive. However, from the tool Jereng is holding, a powerful light begins to emanate. The young man quickly closes his eyes. Right in front of the monster's eyes, a blinding light that illuminates a large part of the forest is emitted from the device, leaving the Titan temporarily blind. Serim, heeding the unknown boy's advice, quickly closes her eyes and raises her arm to shield herself from the device's light. The monster, unaware of what was happening, is completely affected by the light that shot directly into its eyes. The beast begins to roar in anger. After that, our protagonist lands on the ground, thinking he used all the power of that tool, even though it was his last one. What he was holding is called a stun light, a tool made from the scales of the oscillating fish that lives in dungeons deep in the ocean. It has an incredible ability called Incapacitate, which offers a lot for its price and has been beloved by countless adventurers. However, because of its incredible performance, many people misused it. Several adventurers began to lose their vision as a result. Its production in the present day of that world is strictly banned and prohibited. Even with her eyes closed due to the tool's incredible reach, Serim, not being accustomed to it, begins to open her eyes slowly. Passing by her with his baton, Jereng says he did all of this for her. Now she has to find a way to survive on her own because she only has a few seconds left. Our protagonist thinks that no matter what happens in the dungeon, as long as he doesn't do anything for the adventurer, he probably won't be reported. The boy remembers the moment when his boss said that, frankly, smugglers are like cockroaches to adventurers. Despite that, the bounties for them are very high. If he acted without thinking, he would be outsmarted and handed over to the government. Therefore, he wasn't going to do anything else. However, as he runs, the boy maintains a firm expression but notices something behind him that stresses him out. The young man realizes the girl from before is trying to follow him. Not knowing her intentions, Jereng complains. Even though she's out of breath, Jin doesn't give up on her goal and continues running after her savior to thank him. However, with all the lessons he had learned about not being outsmarted, Jereng makes a decision. Quickly using his incredible speed, Serim, who was right behind him, realizes that somehow the boy managed to escape her sight in a fraction of a second. Jin asserts she was sure the boy was just there, but suddenly he disappeared. With her guard down, she's surprised by a baton that strikes her directly in the neck, pushing her back. Our protagonist pins the girl to the ground and tells her she's too stupid, asking what she was doing. Serim innocently and without malice explains she just wanted to thank him for saving her. Coldly, Jering retorts, asking if she's joking he's not stupid enough to fall for that nonsense. Showing she's not so innocent, Serum reveals she didn't follow him just for that, but because she knew the boy was a smuggler. However, she didn't want to capture him. Instead, she wanted to offer the young man a job. Hearing this, he remains silent for a moment. Seeing the emblem of the Warrior Academy on the shirt the girl is wearing, Jering sighs and lets it go, removing his baton from the girl's neck. The boy says he intended to let it slide, but this is her last chance to survive. Turning away and beginning to walk, Jering says he has no interest in learning from a student of the Warrior Academy. In a tone more imposing than ever before, Jering threatens Jin, warning he would truly bury her if she interfered with him again. The girl, understanding the seriousness of the threat, remains silent for a moment. Even so, she doesn't give up, saying the bounty for a smuggler is 50 million and the bounty for hunters must be 400 million. Jering takes this as an affront and becomes completely enraged, veins bulging from his body. However, something changes his mind completely when he looks at the girl's hand and sees something impressive. Serum is holding a necklace called Blood of Enil. Jin says he could only buy it if he captured 5 smugglers, which would amount to over 200 million won. With that in her hands, sweating, she tells him this is just the initial payment. If Jering helps her with the exam, she'll give him even more money. Staring at the girl's wealth, Jering comments it's insane, thinking she's just a spoiled brat. But beyond that, she's filthy rich and crazy, determined in her objectives. The girl retorts that it doesn't matter if she's crazy or not. Raising the necklace again, the young woman states what matters is that this opportunity will change the life of our protagonist. Once more, he sighs unexpectedly, saying he imagined something like this would happen. The young man apologizes, stating it's Jin's fault and he really has no reason to kill her. Hearing this, the girl is startled, questioning what he means. A huge shadow begins to block the sun, plunging them into darkness. Looking up, the boy says he already warned her. Jering mentions he told her she only had a few seconds. In the sky, the primate beast is seen leaping to capture the 2 youths. After recovering from the flash, the monster, furious, immediately crashes to the ground with its 4 arms. The 2 young people manage to escape. Suddenly, the girl sees something coming her way. When she opens her hand to catch it, she realizes it's the same baton the protagonist was using earlier. He tells her he didn't give it to her just to stare at it. He asks if she remembers the attack used earlier. Jin recalls the moment she used fire on the arrow. Jering then asks the girl to do it again, conjure those flames on the baton and throw it back to him. However, the girl panics, stating she has no magical power left. Before Jin can say anything more, our protagonist insists she has to figure it out. The monster prepares to attack again. Jering warns he won't be able to keep the Titan's attention for much longer with just his fists, so Jin needs to hurry. Serum begins to channel her magic into the baton. She thinks she has less than a quarter of her magical power left since she spent it all on her last strike. The battle between the Titan and the protagonist ensues. The young woman considers she can't deal any damage to that monster with so little power. She should flee while the boy is distracting the creature. Jering continues to fight intensely, trying to stay alive. Despite being a bit annoying, our protagonist keeps running, drawing the monster's attention. Before he realizes it, with extreme speed and precision, his flaming baton comes flying toward him. The young man catches it. After using all that was left in her, watching the baton, Jin thinks she really is crazy to risk so much for just one person. With that, Jering leaps into the air and starts spinning with his baton. He states he's disappointed. The boy says it's much less than a quarter of what she used before it's really disappointing. However, he believes it should still be enough. With confidence, the young man wields his baton and charges to attack the monster. The battle reaches its peak. At this moment, Serum thinks the students of the Warrior Academy have heard this more times than they can count. Analyzing the incredible battle, the girl states that in a fight with a monster, the most important thing for an adventurer isn't just brute strength. The most important thing is a sense of timing. At this moment, our protagonist is executing it perfectly, dodging attacks and waiting for the right moment. The key is to seize the perfect timing to aim precise strikes. At this moment, the primate titan misses its attack, leaving itself exposed. In other words, what adventurers must value above all else is the effectiveness of their attack. At that moment, Jin is deeply impressed by Jerang's skill. Jerang, after dodging all the attacks from the primate titan and utilizing perfect timing, seizes the opportunity to strike the monster's chin with his baton. An explosion occurs. After it disperses, the beast's chin is completely disfigured, its face utterly destroyed. The glasses Jerang was wearing shatter. Upon realizing his attack was indeed effective and that he had won, the boy allows himself a small smile. A flashback shows a beautiful school illuminated by the rays of the setting sun on the horizon. The young Jin had just finished playing with her friends. As it was time to go home, the girl bids them farewell. Serum sees a bodyguard waiting for her with a car ready to take her home. She says goodbye to her friends. The girls plan to meet the next day to play again. However, Jin overhears some gossip with her own friends saying she was very lucky to be able to have whatever she wanted. Jin thinks they were entirely wrong. She really could have almost everything she saw due to her social status. Her father owned a South Korean company ranked 4th the Jinsong Group, which was globally known and highly renowned. The successor of the group married an elf from another world. From this relationship, something that would leave a mark on that world was born. The result was Jin Serum, a half-elf girl with dark hair and a determined spirit. She respected adventurers more than anyone else and even admired them, seeing them as inspirations. Jin dreamed of becoming an adventurer more than anyone else. She was willing to give up everything to follow her dream in the future. Shortly after that flashback, a blonde elf is seen saying something is impossible. Jin is utterly exhausted, lying on the ground. At this moment, the blonde elf says the girl's elven blood is very weak and that she might as well be mostly human. The blonde elf tells someone next to him that despite this, continuing to push the girl is very wrong. It would be better to convince her otherwise. Then Serum's father, Jin Sunu, says he isn't forcing the girl to do anything, just supporting her because she dreams of becoming an adventurer. He adds it's not like elven talents are a requirement to become an adventurer. The elf in front of him agrees. He then states that compared to a human, the girl does indeed have considerably good talent. Despite that, she's still just slightly above average. Even with her effort, it won't be rewarded. The blonde elf says he'll clarify something for Sunu. Since his daughter isn't just a human from a normal family, she won't give up on her own. She's as stubborn as her mother, who is the elf's sister. However, even so, the elf coldly says that despite her efforts, the girl will never be strong compared to monster-ranked humans. But if she keeps trying and gets up every time she falls, she might become somewhat decent. Once again, there's a time skip showing Jin as a teenager. The elf concludes by telling Sunu that with her effort, it will be enough for the girl to receive praise and recognition as a normal human. Even so, this daughter was born with many other benefits compared to her lack of talent, such as prosperity, name, and bloodline. These things will make her efforts futile, regardless of how much she trains. There are things that can't be achieved. People will laugh at her out of envy. She might become completely isolated, as they will see her as just a spoiled girl. One thing is certain, even if Jin is extremely strong, she won't be able to handle it for long. Social isolation is something that destroys anyone, since talent doesn't fall from the sky. We return to the moment when Jerang defeated his enemy. Jin, watching the scene, is completely astonished after so many events unfolding before her eyes. When our protagonist finally lands on the ground, The body of the monster he just defeated also falls, making a tremendous crash in the forest. The beast is completely destroyed and defeated after taking that powerful attack directly to its face. With a baton in his hand, our protagonist walks normally until something tickles his ear, catching his attention. As he looks to the side, for some reason, Jering sees Jin, who's completely shocked as if she were seeing a ghost, staring at the boy's face. The girl mutters it's impossible, thinking her savior is just a high school teenager. After touching his face, the young man finally realizes what had happened, becoming extremely irritated for being so careless. In a flashback, Jaewon can be seen advising Jering to be careful not to break his glasses since they're quite expensive. Holding the strange glasses in his hand, Jering comments they should only cost around 5,000 won, as they look like an ordinary item. However, his boss denies this, explaining those glasses prevent facial recognition, alter the wearer's voice, and have more than 4 magical enchantments. Back in the present, the expensive glasses are completely shattered on the ground after Jering delivered that powerful attack. Placing his hand over his face, the boy mutters things are going as he wanted, and it's frustrating. Still confused, the young woman asks if the boy is a veteran of the Warrior Academy. Irritated by everything that had happened that day as he just wanted a normal mission, Jering answers harshly, no. Then, with extreme anger and veins bulging on his face, Jering demands the young woman hand over what she had promised. Unexpectedly, without hesitation, she quickly hands over the necklace, leaving him surprised by how easily it was done. He becomes annoyed by how rich Jin is and quickly snatches the jewel from her hand before she can even get a good look at it. With the necklace in his hand, Jering begins to examine it closely. After a brief look, he confirms it isn't fake. Catching his attention once more, Jin asks if the boy needs more money. She mentions she understands that even if he didn't attend the Warrior Academy, the tuition for the Adventurers Education Center is quite high. However, before she can offer to pay his tuition, the young man clarifies he isn't attending any adventure school. The girl is even more astonished. He replies she's completely mistaken in her assumptions. Jering explains he didn't go to any adventure school and had never even been close to one. On the contrary, he studied at a regular school. The girl then asks who taught him to fight. Jering responds that no one did. Approaching her with both hands in his pockets and a serious expression, he states he learned on his own. This time, it's Jin who becomes irritated. She yells, saying that's utter nonsense. The girl begins to argue that his movements and sense of timing aren't those of someone who had never been trained. Jering must be joking. However, in a rude and not at all gentlemanly manner, something flies toward the girl, hitting her in the face. Realizing Jering had thrown something at her, she catches it in her hand and asks what it is. After examining it, Serum realizes it's a school ID card. Upon removing the identity from the plastic, she begins to analyze the information of her savior. Seeing the card, she notices it belongs to Donging Secondary School. She sees the name of our protagonist is Yu Jering. Jering says she doesn't need to make an effort to remember since that school is just another ordinary one among many in the country. After so many unbelievable events, the girl is on the verge of a breakdown, declaring it's impossible. Not wanting to be outdone, Jering points his baton at the girl and orders her to hand over something to prove her identity, whether it's a student ID or something similar. After receiving it, the young man begins to read it. He notices the girl's name is Jin Serum. He then checks if the document is genuine. Our protagonist also confirms the girl is the same age as him, realizing she indeed belongs to the Warrior Academy. For some reason, he puts that ID in his pocket. Jin asks why he's doing that. Jering, puzzled, explains that at that moment, the girl had made an offer. That's why he couldn't take any risks. Since his identity had been revealed, if he were to take on a mission for Jin, he needed some assurance he wouldn't be betrayed by her. Moreover, Jereng mentions he wouldn't do a job without taking the necessary precautions. He adds he still intends to do one last thing. The young man pulls out his phone and suddenly puts his arm around Jin's shoulders, pulling her into a side hug, leaving the girl very flustered. Jereng explains he's going to take a selfie with Jin. If she ever betrayed him, the photo would serve as proof Jin was also an accomplice to a smuggler. As the two take the photo, the girl remains in shock. At that moment, Jereng realizes she might have made a serious mistake. With a menacing expression, our protagonist tells her to smile for the picture. It was in that instant she understood she had gotten involved with someone far more dangerous than she could have ever imagined. Forcing a small, nervous laugh, the girl gives a fake smile for the camera, but it's too late to back out. Everything has already started. And so, Jereng snaps a picture with Jin beside the corpse of the Titan. After taking the selfie, the boy continues to look at the phone screen, ensuring everything in the image is just right. He then tells Jin they should start discussing prices. He asks what exactly she wants. Still processing the young man's intense personality, Serum states her mission is to collect coins. Jin explains that within the 6-hour time limit, she must collect coins placed in various locations throughout the test area. Her goal is to find a box that contains a coin at a specific location to prove she's a student of the Warrior Academy. The girl also mentions she already retrieved one coin, so she only needs to collect one more to pass the school's test. Finally, Jin concludes by informing him the box containing the last necessary coin is quite close by. Our protagonist asks where it's located. The girl reveals the box is in the ruins of the old Eugene shopping mall. Hearing this, the boy is surprised, as if he had figured something out. Jereng remarks he understood everything, but Jin finds his reaction odd. Seeing this, Jereng decides to explain he realized their meeting wasn't a coincidence, since what he was searching for is also in the mall. Jereng gives a brief explanation of the mission he's on. The girl is incredulous, shouting she couldn't believe the boy is after the Imperial Wasp. Having spoken, the boy corrects himself, saying he isn't after the wasp itself, but something like its honey or jelly, though he isn't sure exactly what it is. Jereng mentions that apparently, this jelly has a very strong scent that attracts monsters. The primate titan was probably drawn to it as well. Our protagonist states it doesn't really matter, but he asks if the girl really needs to go to the mall. He also inquires if there isn't another place with coins. Apprehensive and with her head down, the girl informs him the mall is the only place with a coin left now because the other groups have likely taken all the other boxes. Hearing this, the boy just stares at the girl. Upon hearing about the groups, he quietly realizes why she was alone. Determined to help Jin, Jereng says it's okay. It's actually more convenient for him this way. He tells Jin they'll enter the place, get the coin and the jelly, and then leave in complete safety. He's about to mention the fee, but the girl, already set on her goal, says she'll pay 950 million won. She adds it's all the money she has. Upon hearing that enormous amount, our protagonist is very impressed by the girl's wealth. Serum goes on to say that if it's not enough, she would just need a little more time. Before she can continue, Jereng interrupts, saying it's sufficient. Turning to start walking toward their objective, the boy says he'll charge more if there's an emergency. But if the plan goes well, that amount will suffice. The boy asks if the girl has enough stamina to run now. She promptly nods, saying yes. They immediately start a quick run into the forest to reach their goal. The young woman, who's a bit behind and completely out of breath, analyzes Jereng running effortlessly ahead of her. She thinks the boy is incredibly fast. As our protagonist runs, he sighs, thinking he accepted the offer too quickly and should have asked for more money since the girl seemed wealthy. During the run, Jin shouts, asking if she can ask the boy a specific question. With a bored expression, he allows her to ask. She inquires if he really learned everything on his own. Surprising the girl, he responds that not everything, but the vast majority was learned through training alone. As they continue on their path, Jering begins to explain his past, mentioning that when he was a child. However, before he can finish his sentence, the boy senses danger right in front of them. Two strange alien-like creatures are hunting their prey. The name of these beasts is G-Raptor, a species native to what was once Borad. Upon seeing this, Jering quickly tells Jin to prepare for a fight. She, who was running alongside him, quickly halts, draws her bow, and gets ready to attack the beasts. To her surprise, with incredible speed, Jering doesn't even wait for Jin and charges to eradicate the creatures. It's explained that Jering never received any official training as an adventurer. The skills he possesses now were acquired by risking his life. But there's one exception. When he was younger, he witnessed his father's incredible movements. This allowed him to learn 3 specific techniques. As he approaches the monster with his baton, Jering uses one of those techniques against the G-Raptor. The first of these techniques is called the Needle, where he uses all the speed and weight to strike a vital point of his opponent. At this moment, the boy executes the same move. This is a simple yet refined technique he gained through experience, senses, and above all, his talent. It's a technique even top-ranked adventurers have not mastered, but Jering has perfected it, defeating the first of the monsters with just that one strike. Since the other monster was only a 2-star, it's easily defeated by Jin, who only sustains a few scratches. After putting her bow away, Serum comments that something felt off. G-Raptors usually travel in groups of at least 5 creatures. Hearing this, Jering informs her it means she wasn't the only one affected by the scent of the royal jelly. It's likely all sorts of monsters are nearby. At this point, they've already reached the outskirts of the city where the shopping mall is located. Noticing the girl doesn't seem to be in the best condition, Jering suggests they take a quick break before continuing. Returning to the previous conversation, the girl asks if he had any personal training when he was younger. Once again, Jering responds he only watched someone train and managed to mimic that person's movements. However, because he was trying to be stealthy and not be noticed by this person, he only learned a few specific moves. Since he doesn't get asked this question often, he wonders why the girl is so curious about it. Instead of answering, Jin becomes extremely frustrated, stating that after all this, she really doesn't like him. Suddenly, the young woman throws something at Jering, who quickly catches it, not understanding what it is. Upon examining it, he realizes it's a stamina vial, which is extremely expensive. Seeing this, Jering asks if she's really going to give it to him for free. Jin urges the boy to drink the liquid because he probably isn't in his original condition due to exhaustion. However, the boy points out Jin just said she didn't like him, but then gave him a gift she wasn't keeping her word. But to the girl's surprise, the boy begins to pocket the vial. Serum asks why he's doing that. Jering responds he won't drink it because he could sell it later, leaving Serum even more furious. She starts arguing with Jering, saying it's worth a lot and that he should just take it. Still, the boy explains he knows the value of the item. If he sold it on the black market, he would get a good amount of money. The girl mentally curses the boy, thinking he's strange and extremely weird, but he's all she has. Changing his mind, Jering says that since she doesn't need to rest after drinking the vial, they should continue their adventure, and so they do. Noticing the girl is still a bit distracted, reflecting on everything, the boy thinks rich kids are extremely strange and don't care much about money. Afterward, the two approach the mall. Jering comments Jin already knew this, but they should go over the plan one more time to be sure. Jering states their goal isn't to hunt any monsters, but to grab what they need and leave immediately. He adds that no matter how many monsters are inside, she should always follow his instructions and keep her composure despite everything. Finally, Jering says he's sure the girl has learned a lot, but his specialty is survival. She just needs to trust him. However, for some reason, Jin is acting strangely, unable to identify the cause of the weird sensation she's feeling. Last semester, Jin was a stranger at the Warrior Academy, unrecognized by others and often excluded. However, this is the first time she's ventured into danger with a companion who didn't belittle her. As Jering stands up, he declares they should get moving. The girl remains a bit apprehensive, knowing she's about to face imminent danger. The two of them are now standing in front of an old shopping mall, completely overrun by vegetation. Inside, everything is dark and ruined, with the forest and trees having completely taken over the place.